I've been sort of ancillary to the discussions about our next topic matter here, and it's that age-old question. Age-old question. We've only had them around for 25 years, but the age-old question now is when is the appropriate time for our children to get a phone, to get a smartphone, to get connected to the world that many of us are addicted to, and so on and so forth. And I think that if you talk to 10 different parents, you're probably going to get 10 different answers with regards to that. But there's a group out there that is advocating that the answer to that should be fairly simple, and it's just don't. And we're very pleased to welcome to the program a member of the advocacy group Unplugged Canada. It's Jenna Poste, and Jenna's in the studio with me today. Welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to us right now, like we have, and they think we have about 5 holes in our head saying, what do you mean don't? Right? Like the cell phones are here to stay. Smartphones are here to stay. I need to be in contact with my child at all times because of the world we live in. Your group says, well, hang on a minute. Let's take a look at this. I guess why is the first question. Why is it important that we are careful when we give our kids access to these things?
Well, I think what it is we've got a lot more research now coming out. 10 years ago, we didn't know the impact of giving kids these devices this young in their development. And now, the evidence is overwhelming. It's impacting mental health. There's higher rates of anxiety and self-harm, suicide. And so just the information is more widely known now that giving a smartphone, and that's specifically, I want to say smartphone, not just a regular phone to communicate.
Can you even get the old ones anymore?
You can.
Can you?
The flip phones are making a comeback.
Nice.
And there's a lot of products actually out there now trying to make a simple phone, not only for kids, but actually a lot for adults as well, who are wanting to maybe escape a lot of the addiction and notifications.
But still have that connection to mom.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. We're not saying no technology. We're not saying never give one to them. It's just think that there's more options, just giving them your old iPhone as soon as they're old enough to maybe have some independence and maybe start coming home off the bus on their own, or if you need to contact them, when they're not with you. This
discussion really came to light last year when the province started pushing rules through to the I like to call them school boards because Center for Education is too hard to say, and changing and banning cell phones in classrooms and restricting use in classrooms. And then the discussions happened. We all thought that the parents thought that the world was going to end. The teachers were concerned about it, but anecdotally and from my conversations with union members, with teachers, with administrators, with parents, is that, hey, this is kind of working.
It is. And that's what overwhelmingly I've heard is parents, kids, teachers, administration just say, this has been a really good change. We've got it completely bell to bell for elementary students, and in junior high and high school, it's out of the classrooms. And even that small change has made a huge impact on seeing kids interact with each other more. They're making eye contact. They've got better attention in the classroom. But I think there is still some more we could be doing on the junior high level, because that middle school age is what's really the most impactful time in their development. And that's typically when they're starting to get access to these phones. So I think that's what we need to consider still.
But do you say that it's important for kids to learn about these phones because they are a part of everyday life, and they need to know how these things work and how to use them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's critical, though, I think, is figuring out how to introduce it safely. There's unfortunately a lot to navigate on parental controls and trying to make these devices safe to kind of keep some of the harmful things away from them, but give them the tools that are incredible and give lots of opportunities for learning and exposure to technology. It's just trying to do that in a way that's developmentally appropriate and prepare them for what they're going to inevitably get exposed to.
Is there a magic age? Is there this is like the 16 years, I'm dating myself now, but 16 when you could drive a car, like is there an age that science is saying is the appropriate time to do this?
Well, I don't think there's an exact science to the age. I think many recommendations coming out from the experts are high school, so kind of around that 16 years is the recommendation. When you think about it, there's all kinds of age restrictions on other addictive substances that are really more 18, 19. When you think of alcohol and gambling and, cigarettes, what's the difference between that and what we have right now with what we see in social media and some of the gaming aspects of these devices?
What do you say to the peer pressure question? Again, as I mentioned, I don't have any kids, but I've got nieces and nephews, and I hear the conversations, and I try to be just the observer on the wall, because that's it's a parent's job to do that. But I get John's got one, or well, Sally's got one, and I should have one, and all my friends have them. What's your response to that?
Well, I think that's where everyone's in right now. Everyone's got one because everyone's got one. So the movement that Unplugged Canada is trying to provide is basically give parents a platform where they can actually pledge to delay. And the more people that kind of step up and say, you know what, I want to delay this. If you can have a conversation with your kids' closest friends' parents and start together, it's much easier when you're together doing this. If you're on your own, parents feel isolated. They feel like they have to kind of give in. But if we can work together and more people talk about this and more people voice it, it's a lot easier because then they're not alone. I think the goal here is that, soon that there won't be few kids that don't have them anymore. There'll be a lot more that don't. And it'll continue to sway that pressure the other way, where there's a lot less kids having it and a lot less feeling of kids being left out if they don't have one.
You hear it from the kids. Obviously you deal with this a lot. Do you hear from the kids and are they on board with it? Do they think it's a good idea?
Well, you know what? What I think is the most telling is the kids that have kind of grown through this. So much of the Generation Z is, if you ask them, there was a study that went out that said 47% wish things like TikTok and Snapchat had never been invented. They actually advocate for parents to delay smartphones for kids because they've lived through it. They see the impact it's had on their friends, their own mental health, their own anxiety. And so, the kids who are younger, I think they're still in that phase of feeling like this is when I'm getting to an age where I'm getting some independence. This is what I want. But we also need to do more work to educate the younger kids about what the impacts are so that they, the ones I know who have had these conversations with their kids, they're actually like, whoa, I kind of actually want to put it away more than I thought I wanted to because I'm actually seeing it myself. They're getting more self-aware and they're understanding the long-term impacts this could have on them.
What role can adults play in this? I know we've talked about the parenting angle, but adults are addicted to these things and kids are sponges, right? Mm-hmm. And they see this. Can we, as adults, perhaps set a better example than we're doing now?
Absolutely. I mean, I can say personally, I work in tech. My work is on my device. I've been trying to be a lot more conscious of my own use, especially in front of my kids. So I put my own limits on certain applications. I reduce as many notifications that aren't urgent as possible. When I do need to use it in front of them, I actually try to narrate what I'm doing with them. So maybe I'm looking up a recipe for dinner. Maybe I'm messaging, their friend to see if they're able to play later with them. So they can see it's a tool for adults. And then if I do need to use it more, I try to step out of the room and just try to set an example because they do observe how you use technology and many times they emulate that.
Right. And your kids don't have phones, correct?
No, they're only 5 and 7. We actually don't have any, personal devices yet.
But, it's interesting because, the Generation Z thing is something that this is not just the only thing that I've heard that they are kind of are catching on and they're slowing down. They're getting back to whole foods and originality and those kind of things. And maybe generationally we'll get a grip on this addiction because it's kind of out of control right now.
It is. And I think many people are getting tired of it.
Right.
Parents are getting really tired of it. They're seeing the changes. As soon as that child has that device, it becomes the center of their life. And it becomes the number one thing that families have arguments over, screen time and devices. And so if we can, again, educate ourselves on what the impacts are, learn, you can make a more informed decision on how you can set your own, family limits and kind of rules around tech. And again, it's not about getting rid of it all. It's here to stay. We need to embrace it, and we just need to try to navigate it as safely as we can.
Jenna, is there any resources available for parents that maybe want to go down this road?
Yeah, there's quite a few resources. We want to go on the Unplugged Canada site. We also, here in Nova Scotia, we have got a local chapter. We're actually putting on a few events. We had one on Thursday. If you check us out, we are on social. It's like one of those things where it's one of the true ways you can still reach people, but it's Unplugged Canada _NS, and we share a lot of research on that, a lot of tools. Organizations like Protect Young Eyes has a lot that parents can use to navigate tech safely and create a healthy balance. And we're just going to continue to try to, get this information out there so people can be aware.
Jenna, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
As Jenna Poste, Unplugged Canada.